Huddle.
Good evening. Welcome to the Steel City Huddle podcast. I'm Leanne Lohman, joined as always by my partner, Zach Franciscus. Zach, we talked about this last week, the trap game. We play down to teams that we should beat easily. I think we got lulled into this false sense of security with the win over the Browns and then shit the bed against Cincinnati. I mean, the score ended up being 31-33. So nice to see our offense putting points on the board. To me, that game didn't feel 2 points close. Did it to you?
No. And that gives the illusion that we deserve to be that close in the game. And I really don't. I'm really impressed with our offense. At least there's that much to take away from it, because in years past that would not have been that kind of game. That would have been like a 37-3 kind of game.
Oh yeah, it would have been like 37-11 or some weird score.
Yeah, so at least there's that. You know, I think Aaron Rodgers is leading the league in a couple things, so that's good, but it's hard to say good about this game too much, because that's giving it too much credit. And we'll break it down why.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much, if I could say one thing to if the entire Steelers team showed up in my front lawn and said, could you sum up how you're feeling to us? I have a video that I could play from that shows exactly how I feel.
Well, you guys were annoying me today with some of that.
Right there. That's it.
That game was so frustrating to watch. So let's break it down, and then I want to move on to talk about happier things, the upcoming Green Bay game, the beautiful uniforms that we are going to don for this game that I know that Relic and your wife Honey are very excited about. But I want to talk a little bit about this loss to Cincy, because we talked about this last week, this idea that like maybe, or I did at least, this idea that we're picking up like momentum, right? Like maybe some of the struggles we were seeing like early in the season, we were kind of putting those things behind us and improving every week. And then we have this like massive stumble, primarily with the defense, right? I mean, our offense had stuff, but I mean, really 31 points is hard to complain about. Your defense has to stop teams. So do you think that we actually outplayed ourselves against the Browns and weren't as good as or weren't making as much progress as we thought we did? Or do you think that this was a stumble?
I think that the Browns game was real. I do believe that, but we got high on our own supply, is the best way I can put it. And not just Steeler fans, which we all really did. I was telling Honey, my wife, I was like, we beat the Browns with a rookie quarterback, and they were a good defense, but we got really into how we were an amazing team just based on that, which is our fault as fans. But the coaches just suddenly decided they were going to go in all these different directions. Like there was a clear path to how to beat the Bengals, and they were like, you know what? No, let's be crafty. Let's do whether it's Derek Bell or Nick Farabaugh or Mike Coboli, all of them said they were watching the tape back, and there was these elaborate defensive schemes being put out, none of which worked.
Right.
And and not only that, all these elaborate schemes, Nick Herbig was only out 38% of the game.
And I
That's
heard
embarrassing.
Tomlin say in his press conference today that they didn't play Herbig as much because they were anticipating this like run heavy game, right? But when you're not stopping that run heavy game, then why not give Nick Herbig a try, right? Why not put him out there and see what he can do? So I understand that's not like your usual package, but when your normal package isn't working, I don't understand why we don't switch it up. That was the other thing, was that I felt like some other points this season, some of those games we've won, I felt like we made some adjustments at halftime, which is something that I've been very critical of the Steelers about over the past several years, that we don't do a good job adjusting at the half. So I really expected them to go in at halftime for this game, to make some adjustments and to come back out with a defense that looked a little better. And they really just didn't. And Relic brings up a good point. He says, every year, new players, new and vets paying top money. We shit the bed on defense. The one common denominator is Terrell Austin, the defensive coordinator, time to say goodbye. Do you agree with that?
I think you can't have it both ways. Either it's Tomlin's defense and Austin is just there, or Terrell Austin actually is in charge of the defense. So I have no say either way because I'm not in the front office and it has no bearing to how I feel about the situation. I do think that Tomlin was probably in his ear a little bit because like the most frustrating thing is I could have come up with a game plan to stop them, which is, sure, run at us all you want. We don't have to devote a large amount of our game plan to stopping your run. What we have to do is treat Jamar Chase like he is. He's their TJ Watt. He's the guy you put 2 guys, 3. I don't care how many guys are on him. And instead, we're just going one-on-ones, trying to find a cornerback that'll work. And it was very frustrating. It wasn't, people were like, oh, we're living in our fears. It wasn't that. It was Mike Tomlin playing with a team he thought he was playing with instead of one he actually had. Because, it's Jamar Chase. You're kidding yourself if you think you can play him like that. And
we talked about this too when we had the show the other day that that no matter what you do, shutting Jamar Chase down like completely is going to be impossible, right? Like that's going to be nearly impossible to completely shut him down. So you just have to be prepared to contain him as much as possible. And it just seemed to me like he was just unstoppable. It was ridiculous. It's not like it was just Jamar Chase. T. Higgins had a good game too.
He did, because the few times, and it doesn't matter if Jamar Chase got the ball or not. He was open on every play. He might as well have gotten it. And if people didn't watch the game, where it's like it couldn't have been that bad, he was targeted 23 times. He caught the ball 16 times for 161 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. And the only reason it wasn't more touches is T. Higgins got the other one.
Yeah. Relic said, to go off your point, what are we playing zone for when we have a man monster in Ramsey? And that's, that sounds to me like what you were kind of alluding to. It's kind of what I was saying, is it just feels like this mismatch. Like we aren't making the adjustment for the team that we're playing, or we aren't adjusting at the half or during the game or whatever to what the team is doing and kind of fall apart.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, when you watch the tape, it was kind of the opposite of what Relic brought up. The zone and the cover 3, especially that, is what we were good at throughout the early part of the season. And all of a sudden, we're like, no, let's play man, which is the worst idea against the Bengals. I don't care who of you quarterback. They have a really good – it was arrogant. To me, it was really, really arrogant, because even the times we brought out zone, it was the wrong time to bring out zone. We just I don't like getting too negative, because I know there was a ton of pundits, a lot of podcasters, all that are just licking their chops at a game this bad because they get to be. We're doing this specifically so we can put it behind us and never have to talk about it again. But while we're talking about it, we might as well be honest about it, which on top of everything, we didn't force any turnovers.
Look, these kinds of games, what I hate about them is that it gives fodder to all the Tomlin haters, right? To just like everything is all on Tomlin. But it's very hard after a game like this to find any way to defend him, because you have to know that, well, look, he's a defensive guru or whatever, right? So if the fault is that Terrell Austin was calling the defense poorly, then why didn't Tomlin make adjustments? And if it's not that, and that it's Tomlin, then it's his ego, and you need to back out and let your coordinator do his job a little bit.
Yeah, because there's no shame in doing what you're supposed to do as an NFL coach or as an NFL coordinator. I think the teams in this league that know what they're really good at and just do that regardless of what the other team thinks about it are the teams that are winning. And right now we have a pretty clear path on offense. I think Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers, we kind of figured out a little bit of how are we going to win? Every week it's a different tight end. We'll do that. And on this defense, the simplicity of the game plan, maybe it intimidated them. Maybe they were looking at it like it can't be as easy as just stop Jamar Chase. There has to be more to that. And then maybe they were in a vacuum and there was a little bit of Jameson going around. And I don't know what was going on, but what a horrible approach to this defense. And I'm kind of glad we didn't win the game. Would I have liked to be in that place? But the ability to hold things accountable now throughout the week, as miserable as it is, and hopefully it's being done in the front office, not just, in front of podcast cameras and stuff, that matters. The ability to reflect on that, because I'm going to go on a limb and I'm going to say this is one of the stumbles we've seen a lot of other teams in the league take. The Eagles have stumbled. The Lions have stumbled at times. The Chiefs have stumbled epically at the beginning of the season and all of that. You have to do that to get to where you want to go. And I certainly hope it is, because all of the time to get right is now in the rearview mirror.
Right.
I'll
be honest. I'd rather lose this game than do what we did last season, which is win, and then get to the end of the year and collapse, right? Like, I would rather lose this game, expose weaknesses, expose areas we need to work on, hopefully make adjustments before the next game, and be ready to keep going. Relic also said that Nick Herbig has more sacks than TJ, more pressures than TJ, Cam, Highsmith, etc., and more quarterback hits, yet has less playing time. Play him. He's a game changer. And I mentioned that Tomlin said, they really, I had a screenshot of it. He had said that they really had held off on playing him so much because they were planning to, for them to run the ball or whatever more. Do you know what I mean? And so that was part of his issue with that. I can't find the quote. I had it somewhere, but anyway, so he had said, that we were planning for them to run the ball more, and then they weren't running the ball as much. And so they kept Herbig out, assuming holding him for more passing situations. But I mean, at what point, when Jamar Chase is catching everything under the sun, are you not saying, oh, maybe we should try something different, or maybe this is more passing and we should put Herbig in? Because I think that kid is hungry. He wants to play. Yep. He's really fired up. And it's not to say that other people aren't, but I think he's a little bit of a wild card for other teams who aren't as familiar with him.
He is. And I think that plays right back to the simplicity thing we're talking about. The easy route is Herbig's got the hot hand. Look how well he's doing. Play a lot of Herbig. And something, I don't know what it is about Tomlin. There's certain times where something's obvious and should be done, it almost scares him a little bit to just do that. He has to veer. I think right back to the times where I'm like, okay, we're at the goal line. We're going to run, right? We're like, why are we empty set? Why are we always empty set? Like, things like that, like, it frustrates me. And I swear to God, if we come out next week and we've tweaked the offense instead of the defense, I'm going to be furious. But that's a whole other thing. But I need him to lean into the simplicity, because it's going to help. We have a team that needs that direct approach. And it was right there.
Yeah, yeah. Do you agree with this? Whoops. Oh, wait a minute. It all comes down to why we lost. Our defense broke down and allowed big chunk yards wherever the Bengals wanted. Offense was bright, but not enough when the D was broken. Late game situational was bad. And it's funny because it almost feels like the reverse of what we had going on 2 years ago or whatever, where our defense was so phenomenal and was able to stop teams, but our offense was so bad we couldn't put any points on the board, and then the defense was wearing down by the end of the game and kind of falling apart. To me, it's almost like the flip side of that. Like, Aaron Rodgers has the offense moving the ball. I mean, this is the most we've scored in a long time. I mean, to score 31 points is not something that we've been doing in the Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields, era. We had some higher scoring games with Russell Wilson, but I mean, still.
Yeah, no. And Arthur Smith, I feel bad for him, because what this week should be about, if the defense did its job in even half a capacity, this is about Arthur Smith finally had his humming on all cylinders tight end game. People need to understand, this is how good the tight ends were in that game. The last time a tight end in Pittsburgh had 2 touchdowns and 100 yards was 1953.
Yeah.
That's historic what Pat Fryermuth did. And everyone was like, oh, where's Fryermuth? Where's Fryermuth? And all of a sudden, all these different things worked. Darnell Washington got the kind of touchdown that we're supposed to use him for. And instead, we're talking about how bad the defense is.
Yeah.
Yep. So we wasted not just a good offensive game, a really good Arthur Smith game. And a great Jaylen Warren game. It should be a Jaylen Warren coming out game. He had 158 total offensive yards. The defense should be as upset at themselves and in general as they are. I'm glad to see that reaction, at least, because I'm upset at them. I wanted to be celebrating.
Right. And I think that's fair for Arthur Smith to say that to the offense, because it has to be what Terrell Austin was saying to the defense a few years ago, which is, you guys are doing everything you can. Let's talk about how we build upon this and continue to get better, right? So Arthur Smith has to be doing that with his offense. Do you know what I mean? This defense has the talent. It's there. They just have to put the pieces together, whatever that is that goes wrong in these situations, whether it's communication, whether it's poor play calling, whether it's Mike Tomlin's ego, something that breaks down there. They get those pieces together. They've got the talent.
Oh, they do. And I think it's just go in there and say, hey guys, listen, okay, if scoring more than 30 isn't enough, let's score more than 40.
Yeah.
And that just so, motivate them that way, because on the other side, they're having much bleaker conversations in the defensive rooms. So let's just be happy that I'm, like I said, I'm hoping this is just a splash, that we're going to look back at this at the bump in the road that we needed to get back on track to where we were going. But my goodness, just the frustration. But the good thing is, as we get closer to wanting to move away from this, I don't recommend anybody go back and watch the game tape. Don't do it, especially the Jamar Chase thing. But I decided to put together the last 3 catches, and I was like, how can I make this bearable? And I tweaked it a little bit, so hopefully people enjoy this version of the last 3 catches that we allowed in the game.
God, that's so painful.
Yeah, that was just 3 plays. That was just 3, and it was as bad as it looked. So this is, I am more than happy to say it happened. It existed, and I'm glad it happened while we were riding a bit of a high, because we could take the hit. I don't like to phrase it that we're thinking those kind of terms, because I want every win. But if we had to take a hit, we can. I mean, I really wish it wasn't that game, but I'm going to have to breathe, let everyone else just move on.
Yeah, it stinks when it's a divisional loss. It really does. But I'm going to maintain you're going to lose at some point, and the timing is better than otherwise. Do you know what I mean? It's just not the worst timing in the world. And so it sucks. It stings. It's all of those things. But we've got to figure out whatever that is with the defense, because they are certainly, Jamar Chase is certainly not going to be the last high flying wide receiver or strong running back or whatever that we play. Relic says it doesn't matter about anyone else beyond Chase. You have to double team him, shut him down, and then figure out if the front 7 can't stop the run, then throw in subs and see if they can just adapt. And I agree. I mean, I think sometimes you have to make those veterans, maybe make them uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? You know your guys and you know what they can handle, right? And sometimes you have to mix things up a little bit and give somebody else a chance. I mean, Tomlin always talks about 2 dogs and 1 bone, but from my perspective, in most positions right now, there's 1 dog, and we're not changing it up much.
Yeah, it's the entire thing is frustrating, and you just want to breathe and put it behind you. Like, I really.
Honey comes in with the Ted Lasso
Oh, that is true, because that's actually what inspired me to put the Benny Hill onto that. For anyone who didn't watch Ted Lasso, if you had a really terrible game, you put the game film on, sped up to the Benny Hill theme song, and watch it through once, and then you put it behind you. So be a goldfish, or anyone doesn't know, goldfish have what, like 2-3 second memories or something. So just do that. It's in the past. So
yeah. One more thing before we go on to anything else. Why the fuck is Sawyer in over Watt a lot? He injured, he tired. Fuck, Sawyer's not a pass rush guy. He's a good run stopper. It felt to me like that was just mishandled. Like, who, which personnel they chose to put in, to me felt very mishandled. With Sawyer and TJ, with Nick Herbig, like a lot of that just felt mishandled to me.
Yeah, and I think the reason it stood out so much, it wasn't the amount, because Watt played 82% of the snaps, which is right around his season average. It was the fact that it was being switched out, and that I understand we're trying to have that revolving door of guys, but if you don't use it correctly, then, I mean, why aren't you doing that on the other side with Herbig more often? Yeah.
Right.
And that is very true. We did not pay Sawyer $100 million.
Right. So. And look, you're right. If TJ's hurt, if there's something else, then it is what it is. And I love the idea that we have all these guys with all this talent, and we can mix it up. We can do unique things with them. But I think you have to really look at what's most effective. Do you know what I mean? It's not about Sawyer's development. It's about winning games.
No. And a lot of these veterans, I think it was after the first loss that we put together, said the best thing about losses is you put together a lot of tape that you can learn from. And I hope they were serious about that, because there's plenty for them to learn from. But if this is the kind of team that can, coaching aside, where the players can have the leadership to look at it, absorb it, not get mad and overreact to it like a lot of us fans tend to do, it should be a really interesting psyche of this team that comes out against the Packers. I really want to see the mental fortitude of this team.
Yeah. Before we go on to the Packers game, let's just talk a little bit about the offense, because it wasn't all bad, right? There was a lot of good from the offense. I mean, if you wanted to make a list of, grades or varsity JV players or whatever it was, you got to give the offense a lot of credit. Aaron Rodgers had his second game of the season with 4 touchdown passes, which is pretty amazing. He was seemingly in control of the ball in the offense and, controlling the tempo of the offense. It seemed like to me the majority of the time. I thought that was good. You mentioned Jaylen Warren. He had an outstanding game. I thought there was a lot of good things to see from the offense. And like you said, Arthur Smith, I mean, that was really, his magnum opus, if you will, for his time with the team. I mean, where, we've been very critical of him. And to me, he put together a really good game. Some of those jumbo packages that we saw were good. Freiermuth finally was involved in the game, which felt huge. So I thought there was a lot of good things. So what were the kind of the best parts of that you saw with that offense? Was there anyone that surprised you?
When Moose made his first catch, I was like, oh, good, he's going to be a little bit involved today. I did not expect that. And that the timely manner in which he decided to show up was wonderful. But more than that, Jaylen Warren, loss aside, this was one of his big coming out days. He had 16 carries for 127 yards. That is I don't know what the average is on that, but I know it's good. I know it's very good.
8 yards per carry, an average of 8 yards per carry.
That is ridiculous. So
I 31 yards and 4 receptions.
Yep. So the way everything worked together, and the way that our offensive line, while it wasn't as noticeable as a lot of other things were as far as the impressiveness of the offense, the line did take another step forward in being another cohesive unit. And apparently they listened to the podcast from like 2 weeks ago where I straight up called them out, because ever since then they've been performing really well. So I'll keep doing it. I'll keep knocking them if they keep performing, if that's what we have to do, because if nothing else, I'll take that, because weirdly enough, if it has to be challenges like this on one side of the football, I'd rather it be this way because I trust the defense to eventually get it right more than I would if the offense was still only scoring like 10 points a game. So
I
better
think
place
we'd
to
be
be.
a lot more worried if Rodgers just didn't have it anymore. Do you know what I mean? If he just wasn't that guy, I think that I personally would be a lot more concerned. Do you know what I mean? And to that point, Relic says we need to re-sign him one more year and have him mentor someone from the draft next year because he still has it. I have to agree. I can't believe I'm saying this. Do you know what I mean? I was hoping we'd only have to deal with him for 1 year, but I have to say that like he does still have it. And if we could get him back for another year to mentor a young rookie, I think that would be huge. I don't know if he'd be willing to consider that or not, but I think it would be worth it.
I 100%. Oh, and I agree with Relic. My goodness gracious. Now, I'm glad they're joking about it now and all that.
Because Jalen Ramsey says the same thing. If he sees it one more time, he's going to lose it. And Broderick said today, he's like, I don't know. He's like, if he gets another touchdown next week, I just might tackle him again. Like, you got to calm down, big boy. That was a little bit aggressive celebration.
That really, really was. Goodness gracious. But this, the entire offense was. It's the step forwards that I'm most impressed with, and it's to not have to worry about keeping the quarterback upright, which is what I was very worried about, but. I will say my one big concern is that Aaron Rodgers is an older quarterback. And while he isn't getting hit as often, how he looks now, there's a very good chance that's not going to be how he looks in week 16 and 17. Yeah. So that's what I want to see. Now, if he looks like this, then I would love to be proved wrong. But it's just the worry about the type of team. I mean, we're going to see Micah Parsons soon. I am not looking forward to that. And I'm pretty sure Aiden Hutchinson is waiting for us. And I've heard there's a rumor that the Cowboys want to trade for Max Crosby from the I really, that apparently that's trying to be, which by the way, would be the funniest thing in the world because they're like, we don't need Micah Parsons. And he leaves like, by the way, we really needed someone like Micah Parsons.
Right.
So, but there's so many teams that we're going to have to stand up against. And for the first time all season, I'm going to say that I'm trusting the direction this line is going to keep Aaron Rodgers healthy, which, I mean, if you look at the years where Tom Brady was aging and made it really far into the playoffs, look at the sack totals and the hit totals that he took those years. Incredibly low. The better his offensive line, the more he could do at a later stage in his career. Exact same thing here.
Yeah.
And if they're starting to get it right, I don't want to get excited too quickly, but my God, that would be exciting.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this. Dave says, Broderick Jones needs to be at McDonald's. Man can't do anything right beyond blocking Myles Garrett. I feel like he's gotten better this season. I feel like he's steadily improved so far this season. I feel like the offensive line is coming together a little bit better each week. I actually feel like he's improved. I'm not saying he's where we want him to be. I'm not saying it's perfect, right? But do you agree with that? Do you think he's terrible, or do you think that he's making improvements?
I think Trey Essex actually put it really well. It was a couple days ago or something. He admitted, he's like, listen, the problem with Broderick Jones is the massive improvements have now got him back to average play.
That's fair.
And that's the problem. He was so low, and it was just genuinely awful that he had to do leaps and bounds just to get to average. Now that he's here, let's see where his ceiling is. So a lot of people saying, oh, it looks average. Yeah, he does. And what a wonderful thing for an average Broderick Jones to be on our football team.
Yeah.
Because I will say this, when an average Broderick Jones is there, that includes his mental ability. And that wasn't there before. He would try to take things on one-on-one. And a lot of the tape I've seen, there's a responsibility in knowing when you need to shift the block or ask for help or do that, and he's doing that a lot more rather than after the play looking frustrated.
Yeah.
So, is there a lot of room to improve? Yes, but this is not the same Broderick Jones at the start of the season. This is a vastly improved Broderick Jones. And my goodness.
I don't know, last week or the week before, we started seeing improvements from him. That look, if he's improving every week, even if he's not perfect, to me, that's much better than Broderick Jones, the bum, the first round bust right on our team, because that's huge to recover from. So if you can get value out of him, to me, that's really worth something. So if we can get him to where he needs to be, so we're not, addressing this position in the draft
Yes.
every year, I think that's huge. Relic says he's still inconsistent. He is, but to me, he was consistent before. He was consistently terrible. And so if
Yes.
inconsistent now at least has some of him doing what he needs to do, I think that's, look, it's a long way from perfect, right? But it's better.
And if people need to go back to how he really looked against like the kind of, I hate to use the word, but kind of world-class players like Myles Garrett that you really do have to put that kind of attention with, he would have been a turnstile. Mm-hmm. He would have been embarrassed. And I don't remember anything from him. He was silenced. And a lot of that was knowing when to shift him onto McCormick or Sayamalu, and when to ask for double, the understanding of what was required. Because is Broderick Jones at a place to take on Myles Garrett one-on-one and win those? No. But he is at a place to work as a unit with the people next to him to make sure Myles Garrett didn't get through.
And that's his job. Like, that's literally the job of the offensive line, is to work in lockstep together, right? You can't operate in silos or you'll be terrible, right? And we've already seen that. We've already seen everybody doing their own thing, and it doesn't work. We spent the first couple of weeks making fun of Broderick Jones with the subway video, where the train is going past. I mean, he's made improvements, and I don't know. Yeah, Relic's not happy you called Myles Garrett world class. You're getting in trouble. Myles Garrett's a world-class bum.
And just for the record, the reason I use that specific term is I'm technically not the one who said it first. JJ Watt, while watching the game, said that about him. And I don't like it, but I appreciated his ability as an announcer to be objective enough. And I think he said it as a point to say, look, I'm not favoriting my brother and all this. So I don't
know. If I were you, I'd be like, you're a fucking traitor. Like anybody else, you can say nice shit at, but not Myles Garrett. Like anybody else. Talk about Nick Bosa, talk about whoever you want to talk about. They always compare TJ and Myles. Like, dude, you got to have my back in this one.
Oh, no, TJ is 100% better. And TJ, I'll say this. If Myles Garrett is world-class, TJ is galaxy class. If there's a way to up that, there has to be some like asterisk there where, like, by the way, by saying this, I am not saying that he is in the same class as TJ Watt. The way I'll put it, it's very similar to, if you watch hockey, Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin. They're always compared a lot. Alex Ovechkin's big, husking, pure goal scorer. That's all he does. He is one of the best in the world at it. But Sidney Crosby is great at everything.
Yes.
Everything he does, Sidney Crosby is great at, and he will be a generational player longer than Ovechkin will be. I think that is the difference between those two. Yeah. So, but I'm not attacking TJ by admitting that Myles Garrett is someone that you have to look out for.
Yeah. All right, I've had enough of the Bengals. Let's talk about this upcoming Packers game. Some mixed bag news out of Mike Tomlin's press conference today. They got confirmation that Miles Killebrew won't be back for the rest of the season. He had knee surgery. Man, that is a devastating loss. I mean, he is just such a huge force to be reckoned with on our special teams unit, a perennial Pro Bowler. I mean, having him be out for the rest of the year is really big. He did say Corey Trice is close to coming back, and so is Calvin Austin. And so I think that's I think those are both good things, to hear. We'll get to maybe see something a little bit different with those guys in. Maybe that helps a little bit with depth and all of those things. So they talked about Rodgers going back to, or playing his old team, not going back, playing his old team in Green Bay. And he asked Tomlin about the magnitude of that. And he says, I hadn't been with him for a long time, but he's been fired up every single week. So I imagine it's going to be the same. I'd imagine some external things that are going to make more out of it than it is for him. They asked Matt LaFleur, the Packers coach, about it. We're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, who happen to have Aaron Rodgers. We had a lot of great moments in our past, but this game is not about that. I don't know if many of these guys played with him. Maybe there's a few guys, but that's it for you guys. So
Yeah.
we're trying to clearly minimize that story. How much of an impact do you think it makes on this game that this is Aaron Rodgers' old team, that, you know, maybe he feels a little burnt by them, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some chip on his shoulder in this game. How, or do you think he's such a professional, he's pumped for every game, like Tomlin said? Like, do you extra pumped for this game? You have to be.
You have to be, but I'm this specific storyline because I'm just trying to look at a bunch of other stuff for it. Is this his first time playing the Packers since he was gone? Did he play them on the Jets? Because that's what I'm curious. I think it'll mean a lot to him either way. But I was just curious if this is his first time back, mainly because if he did play them on the Jets, he was probably going in limping as a team, not really doing that well. I think coming in and playing the Packers when he's with a team that everyone agrees is competing at a higher level than a lot of people expected us to, that matters. And so he wants to come in, and he's not, you know, having to put an entire team on his back. And boy, I hope we're not that bad today on certain things. I think he's coming into this game knowing that as long as the defense holds it down, then this is an offense that can really have a, not just a fighting chance, but put some points up on it's a good Packers defense. I don't want it to be, but
if I'm reading this right, it looks like the last time they played him in the regular season was 2022. So he wouldn't have been there. He would have been with the Packers that year, right? Because he's with the Jets 23 and 24.
Correct.
Yeah. In 25. So so this would be the first time he's played him, if I'm reading that correctly.
And people can downplay it all they want to. Yeah, you can write. Aaron Rodgers himself could sit down and write an article about how little it means to him, and that is bullshit. It means so much. He's going to have to contain some of that, because if he comes out all skittish and all wanting to have like a Brett Favre after his dad died kind of moment, then that, which, by the way, if you've not watched that video of that game, the Brett Favre after his dad died, brilliant. Just some of the most magical NFL stuff ever. But it's going to mean a lot. And I'm hoping that leads to a emotional win rather than skittish Aaron Rodgers, the emotion meant too much. I don't want that kind of a result.
Right. Yeah. So the Steelers are 16-5 under Tomlin when they wear throwbacks, which I think is awesome. I know that I am very much in the minority. I saved these comments from earlier that you know, nobody likes those uniforms but me. Honey says, when it comes to Tomlin, the uglier the jersey, the better he does. And Relic said, here we go to the ugliest uniforms ever. We talked about this when they first announced them, and I told you then that I actually don't hate them. I like them. I think they're kind of fun and different, but I definitely know I'm in the minority with that. I understand why people don't like them, but I like the idea of a throwback. So I like the Bumblebees too, though. What do you think about the uniforms?
I love throwbacks. It's kind of a nostalgic Madden thing for me, because ever since they let you change the uniforms for games, I'm like, every game's a throwback, and I just have all the different combinations. It's fun. Not all the time, but every once in a while, and I love the Bumblebees too. And every time I see the uniforms, it reminds me of Ben and Antonio and Le'Veon Bell when they were all together, and I think about it not too hard, because then I think about the results of the games. But I'm really, really excited for us to be choosing this particular game to wear our throwbacks, because we need every little bit of things that we can. If you thought that controlling other players was difficult, this is Micah fucking Parsons.
Yeah, it's the truth. I think it's interesting. I like anything that adds like a different element or a little fun element. Do you know what I mean? Like the Penn State whiteouts and the throwback jerseys. And I love those things. I feel like they're like a a fun little like motivational thing, it seems like, for the team. And
That's
so I certainly hope it works in our favor in this game. So what is the matchup you're most worried about in this game? Is it just simply Micah Parsons?
it's aside from that, I'm worried about this defense because they had their chance to have a simple, straightforward approach to it, and they chose to overcomplicate it for themselves. Right. This week, it's a complicated situation. Jordan Love is, I don't know how to analyze him as a quarterback because he's not a running quarterback or a passing quarterback. He's not really particularly big or small. I don't know what kind of Jordan Love we're going to get. And if I don't, then I'm hoping that Terrell Austin and the Mike Tomlin or whatever hybrid mix is behind the defense. It's going to take a lot to start because Josh Jacobs is the most surprising name I've ever seen lead the NFL in rushing at some point. Because you have to remind people that he led he's sneaky good, but also I'm pretty sure Matthew Golden is still out there performing well, and Jordan Love's one of those people that can find that little bit of daylight that you leave in the defense and expose it. And this defense leaves a lot of daylight.
Right. The one thing that worries me a little bit about this, if you look at it's not a perfect science, but like PFSN's offensive impact scores, when you look at those, they give the Green Bay Packers a B. They're ranked 5th for impact in the league, which is freaking huge, right? And you look at that, overall, right? Like the impact, if our defense comes in like they did against Cincinnati, how do you stop a team that they're putting even in the top 10, right? If we don't have our act together, how do we stop them? And I think it just depends to me on which defense that we see come out and perform and whether they're able to stop that run, because Tomlin talked about it. I mean, Josh Jacobs, he called him like a nuts and bolts guy, and he just is. He's tough. He's resilient. You know what I mean? He manages to pick up extra yardage, and I just think they're going to have to really find a way to shut that down and then not get beat by the pass game if it's at if they're going to have any chance of winning this game.
That's true. And while I'm hoping it's less, the kind of shutting down this kind of an offense, while it's not the Detroit Lions or all this, that might mean 17 or 20 points that they score. That might be I'm so glad we held them to that. So which means this offense has to hum again. But I think people need to not overreact in one way to the Browns game, but also not overreact the other direction to the Bengals game, because multiple things can be true. This is a defense that is figuring it out. And if we had the kind of game plan and the approach where it leaned into the strengths of what these players did, yes, we would have beat the Bengals soundly. So I believe if we come out and we give our guys the best kind of game plan that we can, then you're going to see again the reason we got Jalen Ramsey, rather than him looking old trying to trail somebody when he shouldn't be trailing them.
Right.
So it's that whole thing, but this is where the challenges start. Other than a few games against teams that are still going to be ailing from injury, every single game to me now poses some kind of a threat, and mainly it's because of how we performed last game, but also the Packers are no slouch. Like genuinely, and they're playing. I knew they would play well, but they're playing better than I thought they would. And on defense I keep trying to downplay Micah Parsons. He's just one guy in my head, but he's one of those guys where the second you decide to take your eye off of him, I hate comparing people to Troy Polamalu ever, but the biggest thing the quarterback said is the second they lost sight of 43 is when they knew they had lost that play. And it's the same with Micah Parsons. The second you don't account for him. And so it's going – and I think Mark Caboli brought up a really good point. He said, I really hope the Broderick Jones, I'm paraphrasing, the Broderick Jones is at a point that we think he is, because it's the week where Fatanu's going to need the extra help and we can't spare it for him.
Yeah.
And that's the truth, because they don't move Micah Parsons around a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of like DJ, he rushes from one side, and that's Fatanu's side. And while, goodness, I could watch just the video of his footwork is so quick. He's like a tap dancer. He's so good at what he does, but he's going to need some help. And what I'm looking forward to is, forget all the linemen. Oh, I just keep hitting things. I'm looking forward to Darnell Washington against Micah Parsons. I want to see Mack Truck on Mack Truck and to see which one comes out on top, because I don't think Darnell Washington has really found a defensive guy that he's been challenged with. He could take on pretty much anyone. This guy is going to be the first one where he's not just going to be able to throw him to the side. Yeah. So that is a matchup I'm really looking forward to, because Jonnu Smith and Pat Fryermuth ain't going to be able to block him.
No, they're not. And so it is going to be interesting. The thing about Micah Parsons is that we talked about, like, Aaron Rodgers coming into this game maybe with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I think he's going to be smart. He's too smart to give him bulletin board material for the week. So he's going to pretend like it doesn't matter. And that's exactly what he should do. It probably helps that most of the guys he played with are gone. So that probably helps some. But regardless, I mean, there's his replacement out there on the field. You know what I mean? And he's going to feel strongly about wanting to outperform him. But Micah Parsons is playing with a chip on his shoulder every game this season. It doesn't matter who he plays. He's angry about what went down with the Cowboys, as he should be. And I think he's going to use that to his advantage, you know what I mean, to fuel the fire and be angry every game. And I just think he's playing them all with a chip on his shoulder. And so, yeah, I think he's definitely going to be, you know, somebody to watch out for even more than normal.
Exactly. And while Kenny Clark getting, I think Kenny Clark was the one who was traded to, I'm trying to remember who else is on the Packers defense, because they're really, really good defense, but to me at least, it's a bunch of guys I don't know. Yeah. So I'm trying to think, but I do know they're one of the best teams in the NFL against the run. Which is not concerning to me, because most of my concern is reserved for the defensive side of the football. Mm-hmm. So mainly, I'm looking for a big jump from Joey Porter Jr., because Jalen Ramsey, the result that we saw in Cincy, was just misuse. You should never have someone at his age trailing the guys that we had him man on man with. Joey Porter Jr., 100% you should. That's supposed to be your thing. And he looked a little silly at times. He kind of looked like I will play any position in Madden and do really well. I suck at cornerback. I cannot figure that timing out. And he looked like me whenever I played it. It was so I need him to step up, because we if it wouldn't have been for the extra draft pick there we had that year where we drafted, there's a chance we may have made him a first round pick. We thought very, very highly of him. I need him to start showing me why, because what did he have? He had another defensive pass, two defensive pass interference calls.
He did. I mean, right away he's handsy. And look, I know he's a handsy guy and all those things. Like, I get it. But come on, you got to, like, you've been in the league long enough now that you've got to start minimizing some of that. I mean, white gloves, white jerseys, and he's still drawing flags like crazy. Do you know what I mean? It's just too much.
And there is a direct connection, I believe, to them going back to a primarily man coverage defense rather than zone. Because if you're in zone, there's not as much chance to really square up on someone and have to use your hands like that. There's more of a watching and figuring out what guys in what area. And I think that helped Joey Porter Jr. cut down on some of those penalties. But the second we went to man on man, he fell right back into those old habits. And we can't. And so I'm hoping that Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin are seeing that. It's clear to us. It's very clear to us. It's clear to us why and all of that. So I'm putting a lot of hope that I don't have to spare in this coaching staff to know what to do this week because
Yeah.
it's there. We have the talent. We went and although one thing I didn't know, and you can update me on this if you knew it was correct. People were saying that we got the secondary that we had and the defensive backs we had specifically to beat Cincinnati. Is that true? I didn't know that. If that was true, I didn't know. I knew the Baltimore game, the playoff game kind of drove a lot of the defensive moves that we made. I didn't know the Cincy had anything to do with. I didn't know if you had heard anything.
If you can stop Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, right? If that's what your secondary can stop those guys, you can probably stop anybody, right? I mean, I mean, really, like, be real honest. If they'd won last season, Joe Burrow deserved to get MVP, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, he deserved to be recognized for what he did last season. So if you can stop those three, then to me, you could stop almost any group in the NFL. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think you can look at that as like, I guess that makes sense to me, right? As like the benchmark. Relic says no excuses for JPJ. He said this last offseason. He worked on it, said he wasn't going to get flags again like before. He won't be on the team when his contract is up if this continues. And I don't, look, I don't think Relic is wrong. I do think, though, that Joey Porter's made a name for himself. And I think that the officials have their eye on him. He's like the naughty kid in class. When something goes wrong, teachers assuming you did it or you're involved in it because you're always there being naughty. And I feel like that about Joey Porter. Like, he's made a name as being this handsy guy. And now when there's a question, they just throw the flag.
And it wouldn't be the first time that a Steeler player, we go back, there's James Harrison, who every time he breathed, they threw a flag and he got fined. And then you go back and Mel Blount. They made an entire NFL rule based on how the Steelers played people. Yeah. So this is not the first time that we've decided. So while I do agree with Relic, I do think Joey Porter in the back of his mind has to remember while he was close to the first round, he's still a second-round pick. That impacts his contract and all that because I don't think second-round picks have fifth-round options, right? It's just the first round.
It's the first round.
Picks. Yep. Okay, so the decision that the Steelers are going to have to make is a lot sooner than I think he might like. And a lot of that has to do with the Steelers doing right by him, which is honestly keep him away from man coverage for a little bit and then work on it, and then, a little bit at a time. But it was the worst thing you could have done for him was to call man coverage like they did. Yeah. But all of that aside, secondary aside, and especially going against Green Bay, I don't know how good their offensive line is. But I do know that we are supposed to have a better front seven than almost any offensive line. And there was too many hat on hats last game. We can't see the one offensive lineman takes on a defense. I want to see Ken Hayward throw guys around. I want to see Yaya Black in there. I want to see Harmon in there. So they need to play like we know they can, because if we don't disrupt a quarterback, then anyone can look great. We are so lucky Joe Burrow was hurt because they would have scored 70 on us. Can you imagine?
No, I can't. It would have been awful. But look, I mean, I said it last week, and Joe Flacco is a quarterback that's historically played well against us. So I was worried about it before. Before we do our predictions for the Green Bay game, Relic wants to know, do the Steelers go out and get a wide receiver before the deadline? And if they do, will Tomlin play them? Mike Williams, Roman Wilson, etc.
Right now, I understand the belief that would be the big thing, but I don't think that's the answer. I really don't. And I think anyone that we brought in that's at the level that a lot of people want them to be is someone who would just take away targets from guys who already aren't getting enough targets.
Right. We talked about this a little bit last show. I agree with you. Not only do I not think it's the answer, I just don't think the Steelers are going to do it. If they bring in somebody, they bring in a body, somebody, a solid depth piece or something, because I just don't know who's out there. I said this before. I don't know who's out there that fits what the fans seem to want, which is like another DK Metcalf or another George Pickens or, somebody at that level, some CD Lamb or something. Like, I don't know who we're going to get that is that good, right? We're not getting Jamar Chase this time of year. And then you can afford them. And then, like you said, you have the targets for them. I still think that this offense, the idea is that there's this like wide receiver 2 committee almost comprised of tight ends and various wide receivers and maybe even a little Jaylen Warren, and, throw them all together in the pot and mix them up. And I think we're going to continue to see that. And honestly, while this game might have been frustrating, it wasn't the offense's fault. That what we're doing on offense is improving every week, I think, and looks pretty solid.
And that is actually exactly along the lines of what I was about to say. I don't know how many people will agree with me, but I say think about it almost in reverse. We don't need a wide receiver. Right now, a wide receiver would take up space. If we want to make a splash play, and that would be because I know people are talking about like Jacoby Myers and guys at that level. If you want to make a splash, get a guy at that level, but at a cornerback.
Right.
Admit that some of these cornerbacks, the age thing is a factor. And if you're going to play one-on-one, you need a cornerback that can play one-on-one. You want to make a splash play, go out and get a actual like CB2. Yeah. Not wide receiver 2, get that. Because we have our slot guys, we have all that. We need someone that it impressed me there. Because a wide receiver right now wouldn't impress me, because I think Arthur Smith would just be frustrated by it. He's like, I don't have enough food to feed the mouths that I have right now. Why'd you bring me another one? Whereas Terrell Austin needs some help. So, and I don't have names for anyone. I literally thought of that while I was sitting there. That's the direction we should go. So I'll think of some names later on, but that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I just kind of wonder, like, I know that we've been so hung up on the wide receiver thing for so long that it feels like we have to continue to think about that or worry about that. But I agree with you. I wonder if it's not time, effort, money, position better spent somewhere else, maybe in our secondary or somewhere else, rather than on another wide receiver that we're not going to properly use.
Exactly. The hilarious thing about us scoring the amount of points that we've scored this season, and people still saying that we need more offensive. It's not delusional yet, but it's definitely approaching the point where I think a lot of people are just pony in disguise.
I also think that it's become like ingrained in our psyche that our offense is terrible and not good because it was so bad for so long. I just think it's easy to assume that what's going wrong is their fault. So I don't know. Any final thoughts on the Bengals? Any final thoughts on, oh my gosh, Relic is going to get booted off the show. The only offensive weapon you need to bring in is CPAT. Look, that's just because you want him to handle like buffet line management for you, but he can just stay home.
No, I'm so glad to put I know we have to play the Bengals again later, but that's one of those games that you watch, at least for fans, you watch once, put it behind you, and that's it. I really am jealous of all the people who didn't have to watch a single snap of that game afterwards, because I oh my God. I am so
frustrating.
It really is, but this is a very intimidating opportunity coming up for the Steelers. And a win, and not a good loss. I'm not looking for all that. A win will matter, not just for people talking about us again. It'll matter in that locker room, and it'll say, "Hey, listen, who we were against Cincinnati isn't who we were. It was a stumble. We learned from it. We're better now. Let's move forward."
Right?
Because otherwise, we're gonna have to start talking legitimately about what kind of team do we actually have if this is the coaching we're going to get?
Right, right. I agree. All right, let's talk about our predictions for this upcoming game. I'm curious what you think. Oh, here. Okay, so Relic said, going to the predictions, I posted my season prediction if you guys want to look at it. So he has us winning against the Packers, no score. So he'll have to give us his score if he wants us to do that. He's
yeah,
going to buy color us. You can't even find that. That doesn't even. That's you have to go to DHgate. That's not even a real thing.
he's gonna have to spend so much money on it that it's not gonna be worth it in the because there's a certain amount of money where you're like, this is no longer a joke gift. Now it's an investment.
Right. Now it's an investment. Yeah, I've made a few of those. All right. So what is your prediction for so let's real quick. Cincinnati last week, you were 34-7.
Yep.
You were close on that 34, but it was the wrong team. I was 27-10 and Relic was 28-14. It was, yeah, we all stunk at that one. So what is your prediction for Green Bay this week?
I'm going to stay positive because I genuinely believe that this is a good onboarding to a lot of the other guys. It's not one of the upper echelon teams in the NFC, but you know what? I'm going to keep my offensive score for the Steelers, but change it up. I think 34-20.
34-20.
Yep, and I'm going to need the Steelers defense to score a few times because I'm playing Leanne this week in fantasy.
I pulled out a win in fantasy this week. I was psyched. I had like a 33%.
You were.
Charlotte, who's usually on this watching the show, was who I played, and she had T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And so I called her. I was like, it's your fault the Steelers lost. Playing those fuckers against us. Like, what are you doing? You're killing me. And then somehow I turned it around. I had Jahmyr Gibbs had like a huge game.
Yes.
And Najigma Smith, he had a huge game, and they both played yesterday. So I wound up pulling it out this week because I was really at the point in fantasy where I'm just going to play to lose at this point. I'll take the punishment because this is miserable. All right. Relic says he is 31-24 Steelers. I'm going to say 27-21. I think the offense won't quite as much this week. I don't think we'll totally shut down their offense, but I think we'll shut them down enough to win. And yeah.
Now I'm curious. Are you seeing that as at one point it's going to be 21-20 them and we score to make it that, or is it going to be 27 and they are going to have to score to catch up? I'm curious what direction you think.
They'll have to catch up a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I think we'll come out the gate hot.
Okay.
Maybe we'll even stay in the lead the whole game. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that they'll be closing in on us, but I think it's going to be the Steelers, and I think it'll look like a more solid win. Maybe they'll score some at the end to get there, but I think it'll look like a more solid win. I wouldn't
mind a blowout. People are like, oh, it's boring. I'll take it. I'll take a big win
for that game to be like 52-4.
Let's have all three tight ends have the game that Muth had.
Yes. I'll take it. All right. If you've joined us tonight, we really appreciate it. Thank you for all the comments and the support. Please do us a favor and like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. It really does help us out. If you're catching us after the fact, drop us a comment. Let us know what your score prediction is and what you think went wrong in that Bengals game. And we will be back next Tuesday to break down, hopefully, a win against the Packers and talk about the following week's game. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
And Rich, before we go, I want to wish my wife happy anniversary. It's our wedding anniversary today, so I want to make sure I wish my wife happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, honey and Zach. I love it.
Okay. Have a good night, everyone.
Leanne and Zach would like to thank you for tuning in to the Steel City Huddle podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss a thing.